Hey y'all, hey, what is up? Thanks for joining me. And today we are talking about the astrology of your 30s, 40s, and 50s. But mainly we're centering in on the 40s because the 40s is my life right now. I am going through the 40s, the midlife crisis, as they call it they call it that everywhere, but it's also very relevant in your astrology chart. So something very interesting happens every time we turn a new decade. And that is that the planets align to make sure that for the next 9 years of our lives, because we live our lives in 9 year cycles, for the next 9 years of our lives, we accomplish what it wants us to accomplish. I believe in destiny. I know that destiny is a thing. You are here with a purpose, you are here with a mission, and the universe's job, God's job, source energy's job is to make sure that you do it. And you don't have an option. You are going to fulfill your purpose here on earth no matter what. Whether you take the hard path or whether you take the easy path is up to you, but you are going to do it. And so let's talk a little bit about what happens in your 30s, your 40s, and your 50s. And we can actually lump the 30s and the 50s together because astrologically, the phenomenon that happens is very similar. It's called your Saturn return. And what happens when your Saturn returns is Saturn is the planet of restriction. It is the planet of responsibility. It is the planet of getting things done without emotion. It is very Mars-like in its energy, which means it will take you to war. It will take you to war to accomplish its goal. And so when you're in your 30s and your 50s, specifically when you're between the ages of like 28 and 31, and then again when you're between the ages of about 56 and, no, excuse me, 56 and 60, or I think it's 58 and 62, you go through your Saturn return. And what Saturn does is it comes through and it starts to aspect every single one of your planets. And what that looks like is, again, Saturn is the planet of restriction. It's the planet of getting things done. It is the planet of responsibility. So let's say the first planet that it aspects is Venus. And so what it's going to start to do when you're in your 30s and your 50s is when Saturn starts to aspect Venus, which Venus is the planet of your values, it's the planet of love, it's the planet of relationships, receptivity, it's going to restrict you in that area. It is going to say, no, you have to go down this specific path, whatever path it is. And that's why it's helpful to know your life path. And you can you can understand your life path by using the link in the comments to download my freebie. But it's going to start restricting you in that area. And it's actually going to do that to every single one of your planets between the ages of 28 and 31 and 58 and 62. And so you're just going to go through a period of what seems like hardship and like you cannot move. But the thing about the Saturn return, and the same thing with your 40s, which I'm going to go through the Pluto restriction, is that what you want to do is you want to not go against the resistance. So if you're bucking up a wall, if you're in a relationship and no matter what you do, it is not working, you want to go the other direction. You do not want to sit there and keep trying to make it work. Because what Saturn is going to do is it's just going to keep peeling the layers. It's just going to keep restricting and restricting and restricting until it gets so tight that either the other person leaves or until it gets so tight that you don't have a choice but to abandon ship. And so I'm trying to think. A good example of this is when I was in my Saturn return. I was 29 when it got really, really tight. And me and my husband are the same age. And we were living in New York City. And money was tight. But by the time we got to the point where we literally got a U-Haul and left New York City in the middle of the night, we had no money. When I say we had no money, I mean we had his next paycheck, which we hadn't even gotten yet. Like we had no money. We were down to our last few dollars and we used it to get a U-Haul and drive to Pittsburgh because that's what the Saturn return does in your 30s and your 50s. It's going to restrict you until there is nothing left to restrict because it is saying you cannot go down that path. That is not the path that I want for you. So it's going to restrict each one of your planets. It's going to go through each one of, so when you think about the planets, you should think about signs. So everybody likes to talk about their sun sign, which is beautiful. I understand you are a Gemini. I understand you are a Taurus. It is gorgeous. But you actually have all of the signs in your chart. And at any point in your, at every point in, well, not every point, any point in your life, any one of those signs can be being aspected in order to create the results that it wants. So sometimes you might be a Gemini, but you may be having very Taurus like experiences, because at the end of the day, that is the area of your life that we're working on right now. We're not working on your thinking and communication. We are working on your home base. We are working on your femininity. We are working on your Oshun type qualities. And so you need to know that in your 30s and 50s, if you are feeling restricted, it is because you are somewhere where you're not supposed to be at. You are not supposed to be in that area. You are not supposed to be working on that thing. You are not supposed to be doing that thing. You are not supposed to be with that person. And so you need to go, you need to let wherever you are experiencing resistance, let it go. Now in your 40s, it's the same, but it's different. Because in your 40s, what's happening is it's basically the halfway point. So, according to numerology and astrology, every person that lives past the age of 83, it's because they have a higher purpose and also because they've chosen to live past that age. But the halfway mark for life is at 40. And so most people experience the midlife crisis at 40. And 40 is involving Pluto. Now, if you want to think about, if you don't know about Pluto, think about Pluto as the planet that is all about the things that Scorpio is about. So death, rebirth, sex, transformation. This is why in your 40s, a lot of women say, I'm trying to put this lightly, the thing gets on fire, because in your 40s, Pluto is coming through and doing the same thing that Saturn did in your 30s and your 50s. It is actually going through each one of your planets, and it is causing death, rebirth, and transformation. So a lot of people lose parents, like me and my husband are watching our friends losing parents, losing friends, losing husbands, because Pluto is coming through in the 40s, and it's like, this person is not necessary for your transformation. This job ain't necessary. And unlike Saturn, Saturn will just keep restricting you. Pluto just takes it away. Pluto is like, nope, you can't have that. You can't have that. So I'm going to force you to move. I'm going to force you to get a divorce. I'm going to force that job. That job is no longer going to be available. You're going to stop making money. It is what it is. So unlike Saturn, the Saturn return, which happens in your 30s and your 50s, which just restricts until you can't take it anymore, Pluto just comes in like a tornado and it says, nope, you can't have it. You're not having it. Say goodbye. Now, in the areas where it wants to transform, what it's going to do is it's going to do very similar to Saturn, where it's going to take you around in a circle. You're just going to keep looping just like this. That's what Pluto is going to do to you in your 40s. And so in your 40s, yes, you are going to feel like you are about to die. Literally, you're going to have a feeling like I could die tomorrow, because you're going to be surrounded by a lot of death. And it's not death as in like physical death many times. It's death as in just like things are falling. So I like to say that the 40s is a lot like fall time, autumn time. It's like the trees are falling, the leaves are falling off the trees, and there is nothing you can do about it. A lot of times in your 40s, what you learn is stillness, which is why people have the I don't care attitude in their 40s, right? They have the I don't care attitude because you can't care. Pluto does not care about your feelings. Whereas Saturn, again, in your 30s and 50s, when you go through that solar return, Saturn, it's not gentle at all. It's very, very restricting, but it gives you time. Pluto gives no time because it has less time to do the work in, because usually you go through that 40 time between like, well, I don't want to say it has less time to do the work in, but it's not, it's just unyielding. Like it just doesn't care. So let's say most people, it gets to the head when you have Pluto square Pluto. Pluto square Pluto is usually when you lose a parent, you get fired from your job, you get evicted, stuff like that happens when Pluto is when it's locking with itself. But let's say your Pluto is aspecting your Jupiter. It may feel like sunshine and roses outside, but inside it feels like the devil, or it feels like winter. That's what ends up happening when you have Pluto aspecting Jupiter. It's like everything on the outside looks great because Jupiter is so benefic that no matter what it touches, it tries to make it great and beautiful and flowers and loveliness. But in the inside, you will feel like you are emotionally And I had Pluto aspecting Jupiter when I went on the Jennifer Hudson show. Most people didn't know that I was struggling immensely emotionally. I mean, I was in an emotional fight with myself. I was crying every day right before they called me to do the Jennifer Hudson show. And I had no idea why I was crying at the, now looking back on it, I was doing like pre-grieving for my father. But yeah, that's what happens with Pluto. It goes through and it restricts, it squares. So the aspect that you want to look for is the square aspect. If you're in your Saturn return during 30 and 50, or if you are in your early 40s, and I would say anywhere between the ages of like 38 and 44, you want to look and see what is Pluto squaring. And then you want to look at the persona of that planet. Every one of the planet, it simply stands for a sign. So Pluto is like Scorpio. Jupiter is like Sagittarius. Let me think of another one. Venus is like Taurus. So you want to look at the planet that it's squaring in your natal chart, and that will give you some ideas as to what you are experiencing. It ain't gonna tell you how to get out of it, because the reality is the beauty of astrology is it makes you self-aware, but it cannot tell you how to get out. It's just telling you this is in fact what's happening. You are not crazy. You are not crazy when you are going through your 40s and your crotch is on fire, because Pluto is probably aspecting your Venus. And what happens when that happens is Pluto is like Scorpio. It is all about dark, feminine. It is all about sex. And so that's what happens to us women when we hit that 40 mark. Pluto starts going after Venus, running after Venus, and Venus is running towards Pluto. So yeah, that is what's happening. So you're not crazy. If you are going through, if you are at that cusp of your 30s, your 40s, or your 50s, you are not crazy. There is something astrologically happening that is forcing you to meet your destiny. And it is actually a great thing. Is it hard? It is hard. It is hard with a T. But you're not crazy. You are, in fact, growing. You are, in fact, shedding. You are, in fact, being forced to live up to your destiny because you have a purpose here. And your purpose is about more than just your physical being. Is it about your spirit? It is about your emotions. It is about your family and your friends. And the universe, God, source energy, that one power that is helping us all shift through life so that it can divinely manifest something through us, is just trying to get you in alignment. That's all it is, sis. So don't stress. This is the time. If you are on those cusp of your 30s, 40s, and 50s, get your journal out. Find you a guide like me. Find you somebody that you can listen to that can center you and bring you back down to your body, because it is difficult and you are not alone. Go talk to your other friends who are on that cusp of 30, 40s, and 50s. And that was something that happened to me in my 40s. Like, I really had to reach out to people and be like, is you going through this too? And they're like, yeah, we're all going through. We're all going through marriage struggles. We're all going through losing people. We're all going through job transformations, because this is what happens in your 40s. Pluto is not going to allow you to not meet your destiny. And so rise to the occasion. Rise to the occasion. You can do it. All right, y'all. I hope this was helpful. I hope I gave you something to chew on. I hope I made you feel less alone and more like you're not crazy. Have a great day, and I will talk to y'all tomorrow at 9 a.m. Don't forget that if you need to know what personal year number you are in, and you also want to know your moon sign, go ahead and download my personal year and moon sign guide at bit.ly/decode my 2025. All right, y'all. Peace.